everyone, welcome to another Random Talk Sunday, and today I thought it would be interesting to kind of go back within history, at least I would say probably the majority of people's history, and discuss school. School being, it can either be public or private, although I've been to public school, and not private through the majority of my education, or at least the whole of my education. I don't remember if I ever went to just visit a private school, but I was put into the regular public standard school within my town. And I think we've all experienced school differently and on different levels. And we've seen school in different capacities because, again, sometimes some schools focus on different things than what other schools do, and sometimes we have more positive experiences in one school than we do in another school. And I thought it would be interesting to sort of talk about school in general, and I think its sort of impact on us as a society that have been through it. And sort of explain the various things that I kind of went through going through school. Now, I think it's safe to say that the majority of us kids don't in particular like school, unless you're really relatively young, like you just started out like when you're 5, and I think I can remember the first day being all excited. I remember there was like a little mascot that you could come up to and hug, and you sort of felt like, oh, I'm going to be part of a community and this is going to be great, and I'll be around other kids that are my age, and you feel like that you are going to be a part of something and that this is going to prepare you for life. But I soon later discovered that a lot of the things that I felt that school was going to teach me and really help me with, I felt like a lot of that really wasn't there. I would say that I've learned more from my family, more from my parents, than I've learned from really any teacher. And the thing is though, too, is you're only with the teacher one whole school year, and then afterwards you go to another teacher. Or sometimes you can have the same teacher maybe twice, depending again on the subject and things that they teach. But really, the majority of the time, it's a very temporary relationship, if you can even call it a relationship, because really school, I don't think really provides kids really the needs that need to really be met, because a lot of the teachings within school, at least the way I experienced it, is that a lot of the information is just repetitive, a lot of similar information. What you learned from one grade to the next is pretty much the same, just maybe a little bit more challenging, but really, it's just regurgitating information. Like in history, usually you cover similar topics. It's just kind of reiterating information, except maybe making it a little bit more complex as you get older. And I felt like I really did not learn so much out of public school. Like I felt like a lot of the information that I was learning wasn't really all that useful, and I never really understood its context. Like they never explained why I need to know this. They would always just say, yeah, just memorize this, it's important. But there was never really an emphasis on the importance of what they were teaching, and how it impacts society, how this can be part of what you do for a living later on in life, which is really what school is really supposed to be designed to prepare us for. But I don't think school really does. I think I think a lot of people, I think, go through school feeling lost, and I felt pretty lost a lot of the times because I never understood why we were learning certain things. And also, school, at least the majority of the time, the learning, the things that you want to learn, you can't learn. Like, you have to learn everything, regardless of whether you like to learn it or not. So I think as a result, instead of having maybe more specialized education for various different people who have various talents in things, instead of letting them focus on that one thing, they make it so that all students have to learn the same exact thing. And I think that's fine to a certain extent, that we have to learn about things that we don't necessarily like or that we don't have an interest in. Yeah, that's I think understandable. But I think it's just, since school in general is just so relatively repetitive, I don't think there's any point in over-exploiting it, the same information over and over again. I think it's better if we establish children into what they are good at, what they excel in, and let them do that. Because naturally, people who are good at something you'll see the talent, you'll see the potential. Like someone who's really, really excels in math, like you will see that potential. And I think that if you put children who are more skilled in those areas and try to push them into those areas to where they can excel, then I think that should be more reinforced than this idea of we need to teach everybody the exact same thing. And basically reiterate everything over and over again. Now, there's not, even though I'm kind of displaying sort of the negative of school, there's, I think, still some positives. I think there is still some good teachers out there who really do try to provide something insightful or knowledgeable for kids, for the next generation. I think there is some passion that teachers have when it comes to what they teach, and I think that's totally reasonable and understandable. I just think that usually, with every good teacher you have, you get, I think, more teachers that don't really care. And I've seen this time and time again throughout my schooling. It's always been like the mediocre teachers, I think, always outweighed the good, decent teachers that I had. And I think it's just a matter of sort of getting through it. And I think it's very hard for kids in particular to have that kind of attention span. And I felt like the days just went so slow at school. Like, I couldn't believe just how unbelievably, just not also how slow they were, but how tedious and time-consuming, and how I would just rather learn things on my own, almost. I was almost kind of like, I would just rather read a book on my own and just learn this stuff on my own, rather than having somebody else teach it to me. There's also, though, things that schools have that I think are rather unique. My high school, for example, we were a performing arts school, meaning that we didn't have any sports whatsoever. We did not invest in any kind of sport. It was either you took dance, you excelled in academics, you did singing, you did maybe video making, art, film, or played an instrument. It was all more arts. It was an art school, basically. at an academically based high school. And um, this allowed me to kind of enjoy certain things because I did find myself always liking art as opposed to just sports. Even though I did play sports when I was younger, I still felt like that performing arts was really interesting. And I took show choir for 2 years, and that was very enjoyable because we actually went on various trips to other places around the country, and we got to perform, and it was just a great feeling, and to perform something in front of a group of people, to have this sense of happiness as I was performing. I mean, and doing it in a group, it felt really good to have that experience. And I've always loved traveling, and that's always has been a big part of who I am and what I enjoy. And I think that having show choir in particular allowed me to do things that went beyond this mundaneness of school. And I think when it comes to the social aspect of school, because again, I basically just talk more about the academic and the classes. Usually, I think the majority of the time. I don't know, Nicholas. You rather was just asking me a question. Basically, the thing about the social aspect of school is that you really don't get people teaching you social skills. Like, I don't remember being taught any kinds of social skills from school at all. And it was hard to, because there's obviously various different people think differently and deal with certain circumstances differently and think in a different way than others. So it makes it hard when you're really young and you don't understand this stuff. And I think it's something that I really, really struggled with because nobody taught me anything about it, and nobody educated me on how these social skills work. And I mean, I'm talking very, very young, like right when you started school. Like, yeah, they tell you to play, with the other kids, but they don't tell you how to really play with other kids, or they don't tell you how to react to certain situations. They just basically, it's just kind of like babysitting. It's not really engaging the kids on a social level. And I think as a result, that's, created a lot of complications. And there's obviously different parents, that, like, the way one child is raised, is not the same as to how I was raised. So again, you really do get these differences and these different understandings, and it's also with sort of like, it sort of goes on to in your teens too, when there's all of these various cliques, or there's these problems within these social circles, and you don't really know how to handle it because nobody really taught you how to handle any of these things. They don't have any of those kinds of classes that help you deal with problems. I mean, yeah, you can go to a counseling office, but no teenager is going to go to a counseling office and get their problems resolved that way. So it focuses on, I think a lot of the time school has focused on things that aren't really that important, and I've never really focused in on the important things. And I think as a result, I think that's why you get this kind of, I would say, fairly mediocre education system here, at least in the United States. I'm sure it is way, way different in other countries, but from what I could see here, at least, I don't think it's really up to standard at all. But again, I'm sure there's other people who've had different experiences than I've had. But I think that's really the bulk of my understanding when it comes to my schooling and my education. Now, when it comes to university, because again, more with school, I'm discussing more preschool through 12th grade. At least from the grade levels that I was in. University, although I think there is a little bit more of specialization, again, you can choose your major, you can choose a little bit more what to focus on. This is already up to when you're technically an adult. And I think that's really made things very delayed. I mean, if you gave kids a better understanding, like within their teenage years, what they would want to do as a profession, then you would be preparing them a lot more for adulthood if they focused on, again, trying to create this sort of specialization. But I don't think that'll ever happen with school. I think it'll just stay the same, and there'll be just the same repetitiveness. But I think with university, at least there's a little bit more specialization, and again, there's maybe a little bit more passion from the professors. But I see pretty much the same thing with university as compared to school, except the hours aren't as draining. At least for me, like the university school hours weren't as intense, because you didn't go from like 8 to 3. You went from a certain amount of time to a certain amount of time, and then you could go home, and there was a lot more flexibility, and you could focus more on what you wanted to focus on. Although I would say that, again, having to pay for it is really a pain. And again, I don't think a lot of the professors are really as invested. I think some of them are, and I think some of them are really passionate. But I think majority being they're not, and they're just there for a paycheck at the end of the day. So that's kind of been sort of my experience. There have been positive things. I have learned various things throughout this time period, but I feel like a lot of it was missing. And I think a lot of things that they can be teaching children, they're not teaching. And they're focusing on things that are really, really just pointless, I think. Unless somebody's going to go into a very specialized profession that focuses on that, then there's really no point in teaching it. So it's a lot of tedious information, and again, you will get the same sort of information reiterated in university and community college. So again, there's a lot of repetitiveness, and it's hard to really understand why the information is so important, because they never really tell you why. But I think that there is still some good aspects. I think there are some good teachers out there who try to reiterate a point as to why this is sort of important information to know, and why it's a significant topic, or why the topic is interesting. There are things like that can happen, and I think there's a lot of people that have had those experiences. But for me, I'd say those were rare and far in between, and the majority of the time it was just repetitiveness and just really, really boredom, like just sitting in these classes for so long and just being so bored and so uninterested into what's going on, that I really feel like that felt like I could have used that time for something else. And as to whether or not I want to personally educate my own children, again, homeschool, because again, homeschooling is an alternative option. When I'm discussing school, I'm more discussing public schooling. But I think that would definitely, I would definitely consider homeschooling an option, because I don't know if really the system is going to get any better from the way that everything is structured. But we'll see. I mean, never know the future. And again, I do support education. I do support school in general. I feel like that schooling is a very essential aspect. I just feel like what they're doing with it is not as productive, and doesn't help prepare kids, I think, in the long run for future for the future when it comes to transferring from schooling to career. And I think that there should be more of an emphasis on it, and less of an emphasis on trying to be repetitive for the sake of being repetitive, and for focusing on things that have a purpose and have a meaning to be focused on. So I think that's really the things that can be changed. I'm not saying that schooling in general is bad, or that having kids go out and have this kind of experience with, socializing with different kids, that's something that's bad. But I think that it could definitely be improved upon. But I think that's something that remains to be seen, and I think I definitely want to make sure that if I do have kids within the future, I want to make sure that I'm providing them with the best. And if homeschooling is a better option, then I would definitely take it over the schooling system that we have. Just because I think that a lot of it is just very, very repetitive and useless. And if there's no importance of knowing the information, why are you teaching it to the future generations? School is supposed to prepare kids, and I don't think they're doing that at all. But I think that's really, though, ultimately all I can say in regards to this topic. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.